Satya Dharma Reflection on March 28, 2022. Don't make it so many moments of the mind, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Let's purify the origin of the Tithi right away. It will not yet becoming opinions and meanings in whatever ways. Let's purify the origin of the Tithi, opinions and meanings right away. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself all at once. This is not about trying to uninvolve with anything, because that is still involving with the uninvolved itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Let's purify the uninvolved right away, so that the uninvolved will not become Tithi, circling, uninvolved with this, uninvolved with that, this and that. This is still involvement with Tithi, circling with Tithi. Let's purify the uninvolved itself, so that it will purify the origin of the Tithi. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. This is not about using the uninvolved, trying to uninvolve with something. Let's purify the uninvolved itself. Unwinding from the unwinding itself, the unwinding that discards itself. This is not about unwinding from something. The unwinding discards itself all at once. Don't let it become so many moments. Don't let it become noble path on and on, so that it will be aligned with Nibbana that has no meaning as Nibbana itself. There is no compromising whether it is the noble path or the worldling's path. It's a waste of time to be indirect. Even one moment is not the way. One moment of the mind is not the way. Only just assume and purify itself is already a lot. If it's not like that, then it will be so much of circling, attempting to uninvolve with this and that, in this way and that way, on and on. Let's uninvolve even within the uninvolved itself. Let's purify the uninvolved itself. In the same way, many things has happened through the Tithi. For example, the emptiness. Being empty from this and that, the emptiness is not empty out of itself. The emptiness is not itself. The emptiness is not the emptiness itself. Then it will not become the circling Tithi, using Tithi and circling with it. Being obsessed to empty out from defilement in this way and that way, the emptiness is not the emptiness itself. Then there will be no delusion with the emptiness, being deluded to be empty out from something. The emptiness is not the emptiness itself. Then one will not deludedly thinking that one is empty out of something or not. The emptiness is not the emptiness itself. Therefore, don't be concerned whether one is empty out or not. Don't be obsessed to be empty out in one's own way or in others' ways. Don't be obsessed with being empty or not empty. by one's own thought, by one's own feelings. Don't be obsessed to disregard in whatever ways, or disregard from something. Disregard even from the disregard itself. The disregard purifies itself. The disregard is not the disregard itself. The non-attachment is not itself. Don't use the Satyadharma as a titi circling around. Don't be obsessed with the vibhak of the wisdoms of panya. End the short. Let's end the short. End within no time. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Don't be obsessed to be attempting with the short or the length of titi, karmic habits or whatsoever, or the interpretations, opinions and meanings on and on. Proceeding with seeing and knowing on and on. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Let's end within no time, constantly. The disregard purifies itself so that it will be deliberate cut through to help give ending for samsara without compromising. Without compromising. To be obsessed with using the insights and titi, this is compromising, this is indirect. Let's deliberate cut through instantly. Disregard even from the disregard itself. There is no need to use someone to disregard something. There is no need to have someone that disregards. Don't be obsessed with disregarding. Disregard even from the disregard itself, so that it will purify the one who is disregarding or not. Even the short is not the way. Why being obsessed to linger with anything, with opinions and meanings, with titi and feelings? Imagination so much is just restlessness. Disregard, even the disregard itself. The extinction purifies itself. The cutting purifies itself. The cutting cuts through itself. It is not about cutting something. Simultaneously with the brightening, with awakening, simultaneously with all things and all elements. Don't be obsessed to keep it within oneself, or pampering and composed. This is anatta. Being deluded with anatta, using the anatta to pamper the anatta. Don't create the wall of the delusive attachment to circle and cage the anatta on and on. With everything, just disregard and disregard altogether. So that there is nothing that close up or blocking anything. Non-attachment to non-attachment altogether. Uninvolved and uninvolved all the same. With these, there is no obstruction all the same with everything. Not to be obsessed with being stressed, pampering, holding on all the same. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. All the same, which is not about anything within being the same. Well, at this point. So that there is no one having to solve any problems of someone, not to be bound with opinions and meanings and insights. The knower, the knowing and the titi, thought is not bound in itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. Nothing is bound with anything. The anatta is not bound within the anatta. The anicca is not bound within the anicca. The dukkha, the suffering, is not bound within itself, is bygone within itself. If the disregard, even from the disregard itself, all the same, then there would be no one has to solve anyone's problems. Why is it so? Because it's not the problem itself, not become the problem itself. To be obsessed with thoughts, opinions, and meanings, and feelings and thoughts is for sure they are only karma of the mind and its cycle. Diligently concludes and purifies the conclusion itself. Don't be obsessed to use the Satchidharma as the refuge on and on. Even the Satchidharma is not itself. It purifies itself, it's ending within itself. This is not about ending something. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, all the same. Ending the attempt to end itself, extinguish the extinction itself. The disregard purifies itself. Don't use the Satchidharma to argue and quarrels within the samsara and physical world. Otherwise, it's going to be a great delusion. Dharma is meaningless in itself. It's called anatta dharma. Dharma is not dharma either. This is like being deluded to yes and no with it. Being deluded with the morality of Dharma all by oneself, or being deluded to the neutral kind of Dharma itself. Dharma has no meaning as itself. It's called anatta Dharma. Being deluded to give meanings all by oneself to the Dharma. Whether it is the Dhamma or not Dhamma, or neutral Dhamma, is about using titi or being deluded to give meanings and significance to it all by oneself. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. There is no need for someone to solve someone else's problems because there delusion to create problems all by oneself, by one's own mind. All the problems of the mind is because of not following to give ending according to the Buddhas. There is only just following the knowing, the seeing, not cutting the knowing itself. No cutting itself. Instead, there is just following that which is not cutting, the natural cutting accordingly. Following just the Buddha's footprints, the handprints of the Buddhas. Following the arm bowls of the Buddhas, the traces of the Buddhas. This is obsession with following. Therefore, there is no ending accordingly. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, ending the ending itself, ending accordingly. So that there is no need for someone to solve anyone else's problems. To be obsessed with using the mind, with insights, and all that crude titi, there will be more of the knots. One cannot help oneself, but searching for someone to help oneself, there is just titi of the mind, titi of the wisdom. This is all about knots of titi. Even the disregard doesn't grasp itself. Even the disregard is not relevant to itself. Why being obsessed to not disregarding? Disregard, even from the disregard itself, without argue, then it will be deliberate cut through naturally. Then it will be compassion and great compassion in helping, ending to help samsara constantly without counting Buddha eras or lifetimes. Once there's a conclusion within the conclusion itself, then continue with the great compassion without counting Buddha eras or lifetimes. There is no need to count any eons of times at all, beyond times. There is no relying on titi of time. Uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. There is no problems within the mind, all the same. There is no problems, all the same. Because the mind is not taken into account. That's why there is no problems within the mind, all the same. There is no problems by ways of the mind and traits, because the mind is not taken into account, uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, all the same. Don't be obsessed with giving values to titi, insight and knowing. Don't be obsessed with giving values to opinions and meanings. Don't be obsessed to create habits on and on. That which is not traits or habits as it is, so don't create it. Therefore, all the habits are from giving values of insights, seeing and knowing. wisdom, feelings, thoughts, recalls that is given values in this way and that way, emphasizing, aggravating, on and on. Therefore, it becomes habits and traits. That which is not habits or traits as it is, the anatta that is not anatta is in itself. All the belief values and values given has been repeated. Therefore, it's become addictive within states of mind, within states of dharma, habits and traits and emotions. The addiction within the belief values continuously, and it's going to be onwards in the future. It's going to be exhausting. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, it will cut through the cycle. It will not become belief or disbelief naturally. Even the neutrality, even the ordinariness is not anything within itself, is not itself. Let alone all that path of strictness or slackness, even the neutrality or the middle is not anything in itself. If there's meanings for the middle ways, then it's impossible to end. No, let alone the strictness and the slackness. Even the neutrality or the middle is not about anything within itself. Otherwise, it's going to be significance and meaning and involvement on and on. It looks good, but it's endless. Unable to end, it's only just look good. Why is that? Because there is meanings and significance and involvement to the goodness on and on. What is there that is within the middle? This is all about samudaya. What is it within the middle? Within the neutrality, this is all about samudaya. This is the desire and the delusion in the subtle ways, in the subtle kinds, the delusive attachment that is subtle. Grabbing that which is not about goodness to look good with it. How can it be? Even the goodness is not good itself. Therefore, don't be obsessed with the looking good. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, all the same. Then there will be no one that has to bless someone. There will be no one that tries to solve anyone else's problem. There is no need for someone to help someone in such a way. Deliberate cut through all the same. Let's not be obsessed to be in the way of each one on one's own path, one's own practice. This is always with desire, delusion, and delusive attachment. The anatta that is not even anatta itself. The anatta that doesn't grasp itself. Or dhamma that doesn't take in itself as it is. Being deluded to practice dhamma, this is stubbornly persisting on and on with the delusion, with the delusive attachments. That's why it creates reincarnation and realm of existence, from the Brahma realm to the hell realm. What is it derived from? It's from the deluded practice, totally. Is derived from being deluded to practice for both the worldly and the Dhamma, being obsessed with the path on and on, not giving ending to the one who walked the path on and on. being obsessed to assume the one who walked the path and the path itself, being obsessed to assume the one who practiced, the one who walked the path, being deluded to assume the path, to many paths. This is because each one on one's own path, choosing the delusion on each path. Why being obsessed with this path or that path, even a path is not the way. Why having so many paths, even the middle is not about anything within itself. Why being obsessed with so many paths? Disregard, even from the disregard itself constantly, so that it will purify the one who is disregarding or not. Being obsessed with each one on one's own way, each one on one's own practice, each one on one's grasping. This becomes the density within realms of existence and samsara. Becoming realms of existence plus special karmic payback zones. That is very strange in grasping. That's why it creates so many special karmic payback zones. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, so that it will be all the same in deliberate cut through. There is no need to have someone attempting to solve anyone else's problems.